I'm taking them all. A farmer's redemption. The autumn sun hung low over the Texas plains as Tom Brennan drove his truck along the abandoned property line 3 miles from his ranch. At 52, with weathered hands and a reputation for speaking his mind, Tom wasn't the type to notice much beyond his own operation anymore. But something made him stop that afternoon. 5 horses stood motionless in a dried-up pasture, their ribs visible through matted coats, their heads hanging in surrender. They weren't just thin. They were skeletal, abandoned, left to die slowly on forgotten land that nobody claimed anymore. The largest one, a chestnut with a white stripe, lifted his head as Tom approached, too weak to move away. Tom's chest tightened. He'd worked with horses his entire life, understood their silent language, felt their fear. These animals had maybe days left before dehydration and starvation finished what neglect had started. He walked closer, his boots crunching on hard earth. One horse, dark bay with intelligent eyes, nickered softly, not from hope, from resignation, from the bone-deep knowledge that nothing came next but suffering. Tom made a decision that moment that nobody around him would understand. His ranch was struggling, feed was expensive, his water supply was barely sufficient for his existing operation. He'd been downsizing, not expanding. And yet standing there in the fading light, he heard himself say the words that would change everything. I'm taking them all. News traveled fast in rural communities. By that evening, Tom had fielded 6 calls. 5 from neighbors questioning his sanity, 1 from Michael Torres, the county veterinarian, asking if he'd lost his mind. Tom, those horses are in critical condition, Michael said over the phone, his voice careful, professional. Rescue is one thing. Keeping them alive is another. Do you have any idea what medical intervention they'll need? I'll figure it out, Tom replied. It sounded stubborn. It was stubborn. But it was also true. The next morning, Tom arrived at the property with a trailer and supplies. His neighbor, David, showed up without being asked, graying, solid, the kind of friend who appeared when needed rather than when convenient. If you're doing this crazy thing, you're not doing it alone, David said simply. Together, they coaxed the 5 horses into the trailer. The chestnut was named Damien. Tom found faded papers in a rusted mailbox on the property. Somehow, that mattered, knowing the name of the animal you were saving. The others had to be labeled. Charlie, a grey gelding with scars suggesting a troubled past. Reese, the bay with intelligent eyes. Michael, a paint horse with distinct markings. And Charles, a palomino so light-coloured he was almost white. So thin, he seemed transparent. The ride back to Tom's ranch was 30 miles of careful driving. Each bump risked injury to animals in such fragile condition. Tom kept checking the rear mirror, watching them, praying they'd make it. By evening, Michael Torres arrived with his veterinary kit. What he found disturbed him. Severe malnutrition, dehydration. This one, he indicated Charles, has signs of infected wounds. Deliberate neglect, Tom. Someone didn't just forget these horses. Someone actively abandoned them to die. Then it's good I found them, Tom said quietly. Weeks passed in a blur of work that consumed Tom's existence. He woke at dawn, spending 2 hours preparing specialized feed formulas, administering medications, cleaning wounds, checking vitals. The vet bills were staggering, but Michael worked with him, never inflating costs, sometimes donating his time entirely. The community's reaction shifted. Sarah Chen, who ran the feed store, began setting aside premium supplements at cost. Damien Reeves, Tom's original critic, actually appeared one Saturday morning with fence materials. "I was wrong," he said simply. "My kids saw you with those horses, saw what you were doing, made me think about what I'm teaching them." Slowly, impossibly, the horses transformed. Charles's wounds healed. Reese gained weight, his coat becoming glossy, his eyes brightening with life returning. Damien became a leader, nickering to the others at feeding time. Charlie's fear gradually diminished, replaced by curiosity. Michael developed a playful personality, actually butting Tom with affection. Tom's teenage daughter Rebecca got involved, spending hours in the pasture, grooming, talking to them, documenting their recovery on her phone. She posted the journey online, just casual updates. 20 followers became 200, 200 became 2,000. 3 months into the recovery, Michael Torres called with news that made Tom sit down. "I ran their registration numbers," Michael said, his voice carrying barely contained excitement. "Tom, these horses... Charles is a registered quarter horse with bloodline documentation going back to champion stock. And Damien, he's thoroughbred registered, not just any thoroughbred. His sire was a graded stakes winner. Someone bred these animals deliberately, and they're worth significant money." Tom felt the world tilt slightly. How much? Conservatively? "Each of those horses is worth $10,000 to $20,000. The 5 together, Tom, you could sell them, recover your investment triple over, maybe more once they're fully recovered." The silence stretched between them. "Are you telling me to sell them?" Tom finally asked. "No," Michael said quietly. "I'm telling you what you have, what you're holding, what you chose to save." That evening, Tom sat on his fence watching the 5 horses graze in the golden sunset light. They were healthy now, strong, alive. They could be his answer to years of financial struggle. They could change his life. He thought about Charles, so close to death he'd barely been breathing. About Damien, whose will to survive had been almost broken. About the community that had rallied. About his daughter's documentation going viral. About the message he'd been sending without even knowing it. Tom made his announcement at the county fair, where his story had already spread through social media. Local news was there, cameras set up, people gathered. Rebecca stood beside him, nervous energy radiating off her. "These 5 horses came to me near death," Tom began, voice steady. "Someone abandoned them. I brought them home. I'm keeping them home, but not the way you might think." He explained his plan. The horses would become his sanctuary program. Trauma survivors, animal and human. The ranch would take in neglected horses, rehabilitate them, and when possible, place them with appropriate families or keep them for therapeutic work. Rebecca's documentation would become a full social media education platform about equine rescue and trauma recovery. Reese would become a therapy horse for a local children's hospital. Charlie would work with a trauma counselor, helping at-risk teens learn about patience and trust. Damien would become the program's ambassador. Michael and Charles would rotate through various therapeutic placements. The room erupted. Within weeks, donations flooded in, monetary, materials, volunteer labor. A local foundation granted Tom a substantial sum. His struggle transformed into purpose. The 5 horses that nobody wanted became the bridge that saved not just themselves, but would now save others. On a crisp November morning, Tom stood in the expanded pasture, watching all 5 horses running free, strong, their coats gleaming in the sunlight. David stood beside him, neither man speaking, both understanding that some decisions echo far beyond their making. "I'm taking them all," Tom had said, looking at 5 dying horses. But what he'd really chosen was to take them toward redemption, not just theirs, but his own.